What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. And I have Ben Snyder with us from Next Home Experience and Bentley Construction Design. Ben, I'm pumped to have you on today, and to learn your journey.
Yeah,
The Tell Me More podcast. I know we were talking a little bit beforehand, but you
sure.
know, part of my mission, part of my North Star, and what I'm looking to do at my stage of my career is to really go after the failure rate of our industry. I
Mhm.
don't believe it needs to be 87%, by the end of year two. And part of that is just sharing other agents' success, right? Sharing the journey and showing people that, we all come from different walks of life. We all come from different career paths, and we all focused on doing our business differently and that it all works, right?
Yeah,
And the reason why I do this format is personally because I got tired of always seeing top YouTuber this, top listing agent that, right? Top, direct mailer that, I just,
mhm,
you don't have to do it that way if you don't want to, right?
correct.
So I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited to dive into your journey. I don't know you on that level, so that's great for me because I get to learn as the audience learns. And Ben here, what we do is we always start from the very beginning. And what I find as I keep interviewing agents, there's usually something early on in life or a different career or something that really has a great impact on their business and how they view it. What was life like for you growing up as a kid? Are you from here? Where did you grow up? What were some of your interests and hobbies?
Sure. So I grew up in a small little country town in Northwest Ohio called Napoleon, Ohio. It's about 8,000 people. The nearest city is Toledo. It's about 50 minutes away. So I grew up kind of in the middle of nowhere. And growing up, my dad was a business person, businessman, and because there was not much to do, right? So we had to find something to do. So my dad bought us uh, a lawn tractor, and my brother's 5 years older than I am. We started a lawn care business, and yeah, it paid for my college, paid for my brother's college as well, and that's kind of got me started on the entrepreneurial path. Like I wanted to make money. I loved buying ball cards and sneakers and stuff like that. So I didn't love the work. I'll be honest with you. It paid off in the long run. It was um, a lot of days in the middle of summer when other kids were playing ball and I was mowing yards. My brother and I were making 150 bucks a week, and that was, I'm 44 now. So go back. I started when I was 9, and my brother was like 13,
Yeah.
14. So we made a good chunk of dough, and that taught me like a work ethic. And my dad used to say it builds character, and I was like, I don't even know what that means, but
Yeah.
it drove me nuts. But it really did teach me, the value of a dollar, because you really don't know what the value of a dollar is until you like have to go out and earn it. And a lot of
Right.
kids, no, I
Right.
don't have that opportunity. So it's funny. My brother's a CPA, and he is also my business partner and my CPA. And when he went away to college, we were cleaning out his room and stuff like that. And we found ledger after ledger of all of our accounts and receivables, payables, all that kind of stuff. And he had started doing that when he was 13 or 14 years old. So it was fun. It was fun growing a business. And, obviously living in the middle of nowhere, we played a lot of ball,
Yeah.
growing up, and that,
Baseball's big up there. Do you play
yeah,
baseball?
I did till I was 15, and I was better at running. I was a better track runner, so I had to make the decision. Plus, I played football, so it made sense, football
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the middle of nowhere, kind of, and I moved here in 2009. I moved to Columbus, so my beginnings were pretty humble. My dad was a car dealer, and we sold Chevrolets and Oldsmobiles. He bought that in 1980. So I grew up around cars. I grew up around the car business, and that's kind of what kind of the path that I followed until about 6 years ago. What led me
So
to where
you really experienced sales early on.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta be selling. Yeah. If you're not selling, then
What I'm curious, what was it about, obviously you said your dad was a businessman, obviously in the car business, right? And you started your own journey, at 9, you said, like, what was it about that, really piqued your interest, when it came to that? Because I find like some agents, right, when I'm always curious, right? Were you always an entrepreneur? Were you always a business person? Or, was this kind of, just something that you wanted to do, right, as your next career?
Mhm.
It sounds like you kind of just had that knack for it.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to own a business very early on, as long as I could remember. And my dad was a businessman, my grandfather, my great grandfather. So I kind of I fell into that path. It's something I always want to do. I always thought I'd be a car dealer, to be honest with you.
Mm,
I thought I'd always take over the family business and take over the car business. But it taught me that regardless of industry, typically you have to sell. You have to know how to sell, and you have to build relationships. And that's really things that I probably wasn't great at. I was a little introverted. Growing up, I was pretty private to myself, but I had to learn, like, if I want to make money in cars and real estate, whatever it is I'm doing, I got to learn how to sell. So
yeah,
I learned how to
yeah.
sell.
Well, one of those things I always tell people, the one good thing about real estate is typically it's not an event, right? It's more of a
Right.
process. Obviously, every sales, whatever we're selling, it has a sales cycle to it, right? It has a sales process to it. And
Yep.
luckily for probably you and I, the sales process is a little bit longer in real estate, to where we have longer time frames to build those relationships. Where,
Yep.
a car dealership, I mean, they could leave your lot today and go right across the street and get that one,
Oh,
and
100%.
and,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's I'm making a decision within a couple days to a couple weeks, not I'm making a decision in a couple months to a year, what, like it is in real estate. So
And the service side, being able to take care of your people too, like you can get a deal on a car anywhere, but people, I think, will pay a little bit more for service. And not everyone, but some people will. I will. I'll definitely pay for good service. You know what I
sure,
mean?
sure. So Ben, you came to Columbus in '09.
Yep, correct.
Kind of lead me up to that journey of you deciding that real estate was going to be your next move.
Yeah. So I got into real estate in 2017. I was licensed at the end of 17. So I have two children. I have a son, Quinn, that's 5, and my oldest, Paige, is 26. And obviously, there's a big gap, right? So when my daughter was born, I was a young man, and when my son was born, I'm kind of like the old man, right? Well, what I learned over the years is, things that I wanted to do differently as a father. Like if I ever had a do over, right? Well,
Hmm.
I kind of have my do over in my son. So I wanted to raise him a little bit differently, and give him some of the things that I thought I could have done better. And that was providing my family a little bit of flexibility along with some income, right? Well, the car business, you're tied to a physical location for, I don't know, depending on the week, depending on the dealership, 60 hours,
Yeah,
and 70, 6 or 7 days a week. So I wanted to find something that would allow me to spend time with my family, play ball with my son, that type of stuff. And in my mid 30s, I started looking at like what would be my next path, what would be my next journey, and I wanted something that I could control and something that would make me wealthy. So, or wealthier, I guess, however you want to look at it. But
sure.
anyway, I looked at insurance, I looked at investment advising, and then a customer of mine in the car business um, is a real estate agent, is a real estate professional, real estate agent, however you want to term it, I guess, team lead. And I remember selling her cars over the years, and I'd look at her credit app and I was like, it's not too bad. So that's kind of that's part of what based my decision on like what type of careers I would move into, and real estate just seemed like a natural fit. And I went through the licensing portion of it, which was not terrible. Just had to be diligent and study the material they give you. And then I got my license and I sold. So I was licensed December 17, and by May of 18, I think I closed 18 transactions, 19 transactions.
Okay.
So I started off well. I got
Yeah.
a listing. My first listing was in February of 18. And then I just got really lucky. My team lead was, she was very, very experienced at that time. And she's a little old school in some regard. And she taught me, how to conduct real estate, and it happened pretty quick. It would be cool if she would like re-implement some of those with other agents from other brokerages, because if they took the lessons and tools that she gave
Sure.
me, you'd all have success. And it
Sure.
starts with like doing the work, right? So you show up at your open house. Your open house is at 2:00 on a Sunday. Go knock doors for an hour. Well, people don't want to do that, right? Nobody wants to knock doors, and but you will stumble on a listing.
Yeah.
When people come into your open house, everybody signs in, everybody puts a phone number or email. Well, sometimes agents, don't want to do that. And they don't want to get the phone number or email. They don't want to make the follow-up calls. It's doing the little stuff. I mean, if everybody did the little stuff,
Yeah.
everybody would have success in this business.
So I want to touch base. I want to go back 2009 to 2017. Were you only in the car business?
Well, I was only in the car business at that time. I went from selling cars to managing an import store. And then I worked my way up to general manager of a store, and of actually two different stores. And then after that, that was kind of enough. Yeah. And that's, a huge responsibility.
Yeah. No, it's what's something, because I bet there's a lot of lessons that you've learned, obviously in that industry going, moving up, right, being around it your whole life, it sounds like, and then that you applied to your real estate career, when it comes to the sales and the service side. Anything that you brought with you into our industry?
Yeah. Actually, I had a big leg up. Car dealers, at least at that time and probably still today, are really way ahead of real estate when it comes to lead, dealing with internet leads, right? Lead sources, follow-up sources, drip campaigns, all that kind of thing. Car dealers have if somebody inquires on a car, like you've got 30 seconds to make that phone call, get an appointment, get them in. So different word tracks, that I learned in the car industry, speed to lead, campaigns, whether it's, 48-hour campaign with somebody that just came in the door, somebody that sent in a lead but didn't come in the door, how to get them in. So, internet-based leads and processing those is something that I had a lot of experience with. Building out business development centers to attract more leads to a dealership is something I had a lot of experience with. And I found out that at that time, real estate business did not have much of that at all. So
yeah. I'm curious. When you got into the business, did you focus on open houses a lot? What were some of the things that you focused on?
Great question. I had to do 2 open houses a week. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's funny. I started with HER, and I was doing a training and for new agents, and at this time she was, executive VP business development. She had like this fancy title and all this fancy jewelry and had sold all this real estate in another state and had all this success. So she's all trained. She's training a bunch of new agents, right? And she's like, "Oh, I hated open houses. I never did open houses as an established agent." And I was like, "That's really weird." Like this woman that's, there's 1,200. HER was a big brokerage at this time, until they got bought out. But anyway, I'm like, this woman is telling us, a room of new agents, that she hated open houses. Well, if that's your mentality, right, that's one thing, but why would you share that with a group of new agents? So anyway, so I learned open houses. My very first listing, this is a true story. My very first listing I ever had was in Upper Arlington, and it was the third week in January, and it was as gray as can be. And I had a listing. I think it was like a $300,000 listing. It wasn't anything special, but it was going to make somebody a really nice, place, right? So I put all my signs out. So one of those guys that puts again, hard work, right? So you have to put like the directional signs. If it's not super easy to get to, you might have to make 8 or 10 stops and put your sign there and then go on. So sometimes you have to get there an hour early, right? So I get to my open house about 10 minutes till, and this is February 2018. And there's literally a line of people get ready to get in the house, right? My first open house. Wasn't my first open house. Take that back. My first open house with my own listing. Okay.
Yeah.
So people come in left and right, everywhere. And then towards the end of the open house, right? This couple comes to me. They said, "We want to buy this condo. We have a house to sell in Upper Arlington that's paid for. And if we can get this bought, we'd like you to help us sell our other house." I'm like, okay, sign right here. Signs. So I was like, that sounds great. Let me get this open house finished up. I'll give you a call. I gave him a call, went over to their house after my open house, looked at their house. We put together a value on their house. That night they went in contract on my listing, which was cool because I represented, represented them in the sale of their home in Upper Arlington. Interesting house. One of the oldest, maybe the oldest house in Upper Arlington, a farmhouse.
Oh, wow.
Built in 1901. And I don't think Arlington was incorporated until 1903. Pretty interesting backstory about that property in particular. But anyway, so I got a listing. People come in, they're like, "Yeah, we'll buy your listing." I'm like, awesome. Then I sold their house in Arlington. And then I also represented both sides on that other transaction. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but it lends itself to like doing the work, right? You've got to go to the open house. You have to talk to people. You have to capture your audience that's there. I mean, people are shopping when they come to open houses. They might have a house to sell in a year or two, and they could be interviewing you. You just don't know. You always have to put your best foot forward and work hard. And that was kind of my first couple weeks of actual.
Yeah. No, I mean, I with you just having the car sales background, that's something that I feel like would be so natural to you as far as, on the dealership, right? On the lot, you got people coming to you. You got 10 minutes to make sure you meet them, get their information, understand what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, and then capture all of the information before they leave, right? And so I kind of had a feeling that open houses may have been something that you focused on early on because that is your wheelhouse. It's just a different product, right?
For sure. I think people focus too much on the product and not the people. Like if you take some time, and I will admit, I've never known much about cars. I know, like if somebody wants to know what, type of transmission it has, like it's automatic. I've never been a car guru. I've never been super interested in performance cars or any of that. But what I was good at is relationships, and knowing my audience. And I think that's one of the things that people don't talk enough about. It's like, if you know who you're talking to, who you're dealing with, then they will tell you how to sell them a product and how to close them. Like if you're working with an engineer, like you better, you know, better put your selling shoes on because you got your work cut out for you because they're going to look at every number. They're going to look at every report. They're going to have a million and one questions because that's kind of how they're wired.
Yeah.
But if you get to know people, right? So if you know where they grew up, or they're Ohio State fan, if they got a Ohio State shirt on, oh, you're a Buckeye. Did you go to, did you go to Ohio State?
Yeah.
Get to be a friend first, right? And then, if they feel good about you as a friend, then you can advise them moving on. But I don't think people spend enough time getting to know people, getting to know their audience, and knowing what people do for work. Because if you know like their work, a lot of times that will tell you a lot about how they buy, how they negotiate, so forth. So
how did you get good at that? What did you do trainings? Were you big on that, or was it just experience? Or look, I believe some of that is just a born natural gift, Um,
yeah,
for you,
so
like any advice or ideas for people that may want to learn more about how to be better in that area?
yeah, I mean, people buy from people that they like, right? People that they trust. So if you can get a common ground with people, I think that you build that relationship, they're far more likely to buy something from you, right? So
Yeah.
getting to ask them questions, a lot of people, I don't think in our industry ask enough questions.
Yeah.
Uh, they just provide, you know, CMAs, ask questions, get to know your people. So what got me better at that? That's a great question. So I used to spend a lot of time reading Grant Cardone. He's a car guy. He got started in the car business and now he's in real estate. But I got better, a lot better by reading his books. And then when I worked for Reichert Automotive, I had a 45-minute drive one way. So every day to and from, I would listen to his audio book. It's called trying to remember, it's 101 closings or something, how to
Oh,
close 101 deals, or how to overcome 101 um, objections. So um, that's what I studied, how to overcome those objections, how to build relationships. And I did an internship for 2 years in life insurance in college, and a lot of that was relationship building and how to build relationships. So a little bit, obviously two polar opposites when it comes to like insurance and then the car business. But yeah, I did a lot of time like honing my craft. If somebody gave me an excuse why they're not buying a car, I had a reason for every one of them.
yeah.
If they
No,
had,
I think that's where one of the areas I got lucky when I got into the business is I had training that really emphasized, and I hate using the word scripts. I try to replace that with conversation flow, right?
sure.
Really understanding the conversation flow. What's the true information that we really need as an agent to be able to help someone, and then
Mhm.
really finding that common ground where we can build some sort of relationship, where we can start some sort of relationship. And
Yeah.
an example of this right here, I laughed when you said you're from Napoleon, or chuckled, or you saw me smile. And the reason is because my wife's from Defiance.
Oh, so the
And
bulldog. Oh, got some
before we
bulldog stories too, man. I don't know how much time you have, but I got some bulldog stories too.
and before we jumped on here, I saw that you went to Defiance College, and obviously her parents still live there, and I go up there, once a quarter or whatever. And I'm not from Northwest Ohio, but
Yeah.
I'm from Northeast Ohio. I grew up south of Youngstown, went to high school east of Cleveland, and I was talking to Josh Yaminsky the other day, and he's from Canton, and I told him he has a 330 area code still. And I
Gotcha.
said, every time I make a phone call and it's like an internet lead and it's a 330 area code or a 440 area code, even a 419 area code, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, what
Yes, for
part
sure.
what part of the state, right? Because 419 is a wide area.
Sure.
330 is Canton, Akron to Youngstown, and 440 is Cleveland, East Cleveland. So, that's my, like, tell me where you're from, right? And for me personally, that's how I connect with a lot of people, because Northeast Ohioans you usually like to connect with Northeast East
for
Ohio, and or Northwest or all those. So, that's just a little a tip for me, right? If you're
sure.
here 614, hey, what part of Columbus did you grow up in? Right? Like
Yeah,
maybe.
for sure.
So, but yeah, we can talk about the flat
Yeah,
land out there in Defiance
yeah,
and your neck of the woods.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, my car business career when I was in Northwest Ohio, it was pretty easy. My last name is Snyder. My last name's on the building, right? So if somebody comes in to look at a car, it's kind of like, hey, my name's Ben, last name's Snyder. Oh, they thought I was the owner or whatever. I was not the owner at that time, but yeah, it was pretty easy, to build those relationships when the dealership's been there for 100 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was pretty easy. Intro, right? Because I pretty much knew everybody, but I also got to know them, and in the meantime, built that trust,
mhm,
and it just taught me that I really do need to know people because I'm not really good at knowing about the cars.
yeah,
So figure out like I had to work through my strength, and I could talk to anybody for about anything, honestly. And I figure, well, if I'm not going to be all that interested in cars, they're like a stock to me. You want to buy them at this price and sell them at this price. That's how I was is my relationship with cars.
yeah,
Um, so I had to get better at knowing people, and they'd ask me about um, fuel economy or something. And that's pretty easy, but they'd
yeah,
ask
yeah,
about, I wasn't all that familiar with, and I'd ask them about, their
yeah,
kids soccer league and which community they were playing soccer. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, well, my nephew plays soccer for XYZ. Oh, really? What's his name? And then you start building like a connection. If you know somebody that knows somebody, I've lived here long enough that if I know where somebody went to school, where they grew up, their favorite sports teams, where they live now, what they do for work, I can usually find a common ground, somebody that they know, that I know, and so forth. And typically it works out in that regard.
yeah, yeah. Ben, let's dive into the real estate career
Yeah, man.
a little bit more. When you made that switch, going into real estate out of the car industry,
Yeah.
did you have supporters, doubters? What really helped you get through that transition? And I bring this question up all the time because a lot of people get into real estate. It's not their first career choice,
Right.
right? Usually it's their second, third, fourth. You're maybe sometimes leaving a career that they've been with, for years and now jumping into a new industry.
Mhm.
For you, did you have a lot of supporters, doubters?
So, I had a lot of support for sure. I didn't have any doubters, at least that I knew of. And getting to where I am today, I wasn't certain what I wanted to do in real estate. I just knew that I wanted to get a license to sell real estate, and as soon as I did, um, I was off and running. And I really didn't have time to think about whether I was coming or going or who was supportive, who wasn't supportive. I was just too busy. Yeah, running. We at that time we had a ton of internet leads that were flowing in, and I was responsible for all of them. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in fielding a lot of those leads, and then as far as like the people that were supportive and not supportive. And my wife at the time was supportive until it was 5 or 6 o'clock, to come home and take care of the baby and eat dinner and have family time. And that can be hard to do for a newer agent,
Yeah,
to have consistency with the schedule.
yeah.
uh,
I
and
always
then
say your if you have a significant other, they kind of have to be on board,
yeah, there's no option.
because I mean you came from the car industry, so your hours are already crazy. But there's like this, there's just a different.
It's
I
a
didn't come
different.
from I didn't come from a corporate background. I came in right out of college, so for me, this is the only thing I know. But I mean, even I look at my wife, and she grew up with parents that set hours, right? Dad
Yeah,
was a worked at the factory. Her mom works, set hours. And, for me, it was just like, she met me, it was chaos, right? It was just like, whenever, right? I got showing at 9 this morning and 8 at night, and,
For sure.
everything else in between. And, I think, especially when you're transitioning over, if you have a significant other, they got to be on board because it is a different way of life.
Mhm.
Now, as you get things going and settled, right, you can create some more structure and some of those things. But
Still not super easy.
yeah, it's still hard, right? Because we got to be available when our clients truly need us. So, um, no, that's awesome, Ben. For you, kind of take me through that journey. Obviously, that first yearish or so, you said you did 18 deals. Um, you worked internet leads. Did
Mhm.
you tap into any of your sphere of influence from the car world to help you as well?
I did, yeah. I did get into touch base with some of my sphere, and and they were great, to me and my business. They really did a great job of funneling people my way whenever they had someone that was wanting to buy or sell. Because in the car business, in any given day, you could talk to 15 families,
Mm,
so those guys have a huge network of people. And then because I had sold, I don't know, at one time for a period of about 4 or 5 years before I got into management, I sold probably 900 to 1,000 cars a year.
wow.
So yeah, so it was so I yeah, there was a lot of people. I took a lot of my customers from the car business to my
Yeah.
real estate business, and absolutely, yeah.
How did you manage that? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Mhm.
Leaving a different, leaving their career or tapping into their sphere, and where I see a lot of agents struggle is really positioning themselves as now the real estate expert, not what that agent used to be, right,
Sure.
in those people's eyes. How did you navigate? Um, and maybe you did it. Maybe it was just like, hey, this is what I'm doing now, right? Love to help you. But how did you really navigate that conversation? Because they may have known you from Ben, who sold me this car and this car and this car, but now he's a real estate professional.
Yeah, great question. So, how did I navigate that? Well, I told you before that it was a relationship thing for me.
Yeah.
So my customers became my friends, right? Or
Mhm.
um, not necessarily they're all my friends, but all
Right.
people that I would consider
Acquaintances.
acquaintances for sure. Yeah. And if I would send them a text or give them a phone call, they'd pick up. Like, hey, Ben, what's going on? As I use so many different ways to build relationships with people, whether it was through sports or finding a common ground, having someone in common or having a similar hobby. So there again, I built relationships. So those phone calls were easy to make. They weren't just people that I had sold and said, see you later. I had built that relationship so that when it came time to move into real estate, people were super open. Yeah. And now
Nice.
that said, they all, everybody knows their real estate agent or their
Right.
their cousin Willie just got a license and they're gonna, throw him a bone. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, so early on, it was the relationships that really, that got me through. And then as I've gotten older and more mature and understand real estate more, I've kind of carved out my own little niche, I guess. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but in certain things, I do know quite a bit about real estate when it comes to rentals or renovations, rehabs, resale, that type of stuff. So now I am, I guess, more of an expert in certain regards. And those phone calls are a lot easier to make now because it's kind of a value proposition, like,
Yeah.
hey, if you want to buy in this area, um, I know this area and I know what you can buy this house for. And if you wanted to fix it up and resell it, like, I know what you can sell it for, what you can buy
Yeah.
it for, about what it's going to cost to fix it, and the fees associated with it. And yeah, my audience is definitely more captive now. That's for sure.
Lead me up to current day. from your license to now, as far as your business, you know where you're at today, what
Mhm.
you're doing, and then from there we'll definitely dive into the future.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So in the last handful of months, I've focused on furnished rentals. I have done pretty well with furnished rentals. So I love furnished rentals, short-term rentals. Um, I bought a building. I bought a triplex, a new triplex that was unfinished. It's on a big piece of property, so I'm finishing that now, and then I'm going to build a quadruplex behind it. But I just have to. The first apartment done. Um, it was in a state of um, it was in a state of completion, but it wasn't all done, right? So they went and got all the permits and got all the drawings and submitted all the plans and then did the work when I bought it. Um, but what I didn't know is that there were some structural things that they didn't follow per the drawings. So now I've got to kind of go back and fix some things structurally, but it'll be, yeah, it'll be a great project. And I, just like with the short-term rental, when this thing is finished, I plan on renting all 7 of them for about $2,500 a month on one piece of land. So that's been a big focus for me. I also have another furnished rental down in the same area near Children's Hospital that I'm working on. And then I'm actually renovating a farmhouse in Mechanicsburg. That's one of the things that I'm doing now.
Are you more like investor focused, just
I
yourself
am.
personally and client wise, or?
I am. Now, that said, the things that I learned from primarily transacting residential real estate as part of a big experienced real estate team is that I learned the importance of, getting the house ready to show, right?
Mhm.
Getting professional photos, getting the house professionally staged, just some of the things that I think people that may be more on the investment side of real estate, they're like, why would I spend $2,000 on staging? That's stupid. Well, that's
Right.
not, I can tell you why. So I do, like if I renovate, I do sell it myself. 99% of the time I'll sell it myself, but the residential side and all the lessons that I learned there have transitioned um, into the investment side of things. But I would say primarily about 90% of what I do would be with investment real estate.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think, with the construction background, right, and doing that, and the information and expertise on the real estate side of things, right? Like you mentioned, right? You know who you can really serve. Not saying that you can't help someone that just wants to sell their house in Hilliard, right?
Mhm.
But I
Sure.
cut my teeth on investors and internet leads, right? And a lot of them were first time buyers when I started with them. So
Yeah,
that brings you understanding values of a house once it's fixed up in certain areas, or really how to forecast out 5 years from now of where is this area growing or not growing,
for sure.
and you might be a little bit ahead of it just because you're in it a little bit more.
I'm
you know the,
definitely, yeah, I'm in it every day. Yeah, I mean, it's something that kind of happened out of necessity for me was to get into the investment side of real estate, but I do definitely enjoy it. There's so many different layers to investment real estate
yeah,
that keeps it new, keeps it fresh, that kind of
yeah,
thing. So I
yeah.
I enjoy that part of it for sure.
Well, I want to kind of move to the future and just kind of look to see kind of where you want to go with things within your career, and
Mhm.
um, what's something that you're really looking to accomplish here in the next 12 months? What's a goal of yours?
Yeah, so I own some land I'd like to build on, and I have some plans for triplex. I'm bullish on the furnished rentals. Maybe people think I'm crazy, but I do enjoy the furnished rentals.
Is
So
it long term? Is it long? Just to explain for the audience, is it Airbnb, or is it furnished rentals but long term, or mid rentals? Like 3 months, 6 months at a time.
okay, so my first Good question. So my first furnished rental was, or is, in Worthington, near the downtown Worthington area, which is a pretty, it's pretty hot little area, I think. Well, Worthington in general, but if you get close to the downtown area, there's restaurants and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's quaint, it's quiet, walkability to parks and schools and churches, and then you can walk and have a steak if you want, with less than a quarter mile away. So the location there has been great. But what I learned is that you can't do a rental in Worthington for less than 30 days, right? So so because of that, I stay. Like, people get around that with Airbnb and
Sure.
VO, and that just doesn't feel right to me. They put their stuff on Airbnb for 30 days, and then then you get a request for 2 days or a weekend, and then you put them in there, and then they leave, and sooner or later the city will knock on your door and they'll give you a fine or whatever the case may be. So
Right.
um, so short-term furnished rentals for me. So I've had someone in the Worthington house since February. The other ones that I have, it kind of depends on where they're located, but the furnishings have to be thought out. I put them on. I put them online, so I have them professionally staged, and then like the furniture and the pictures hanging on the wall, then the silverware, and they're all super high def, new TVs and stuff like that. So people will pay a premium if they can just stay at a place for a weekend or a week or a month, and they've got internet, their yard is mowed, there's 2 sets of dishes, there's 4 sets of towels, there's dish soap, there's all of the above, and and I think that's a really great avenue for me personally. But yeah, it kind of depends on where you're at.
I mean, even, I'm just thinking from a real estate agent standpoint, having you as a connection for people that are needing 30 days between homes or 2 weeks
Oh,
between
for
homes.
sure. Yeah.
They're building a house and, they need to move, get out of their current home and move before their new build's built, finished.
It's
So,
Yeah, it's really hard to find. I don't know if you've went out there and searched for a furnished rental that's nice looking in a nice part of town, but they're few and far between. My Worthington, my Worthington property right now is renting at just under 4,000 a month, and
wow.
it's only 1,000. It's 1,002 square feet above grade, so
Wow.
it's not a huge place by any means, but there's a huge opportunity there, but it takes money, it takes time. You have to buy all the beds and the bedding and the dust ruffles and all that kind of jazz. And then you got to buy TVs and you've got to mount them, and you've got to have internet, and you have to pay for the internet or Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but there's opportunities there for sure.
What's a 5-year goal for you?
5-year goal. That's great. Great question. I'm going to own some big apartment buildings by then in the next 5 years. And then I'd like to get some commercial space as well, to do mixed use as well. So I'd like to have, a few apartment buildings with retail underneath. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. And then obviously I plan to grow my construction company and my real estate as well. I've also thought about, and I haven't really decided yet, but if you could figure out how to renovate and resell a house, and brand it and do it really well. Like I just bought a Harp home, right? Well, people that, if you've sold 50 Harp homes, you renovated it from beginning to end, and you provide a certain quality. I think that could be branded. I don't know that anybody has done that here, but that would be really cool. And I have to think that through. There's a lot of moving parts there, but if you could, build a brand around your renovations and the houses you sell, where you sell them, and how much you sell them for. You could be the Cadillac of home remodelers. I
Yeah.
think flipping has a negative connotation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, but
I like
I can
I like
stuff
the
like
way I've never really thought about that, right? I like the way that you're thinking through that because I mean it's almost like the stamp of approval, right? Like this is, stamped, done. There's probably got to be a few key things that you see in that type of renovation, right? Some key things. Um,
I mean, I think you would put together a list that somebody that buys one of your homes will know that the foundation has been inspected and reinforced if needed, dug out, rebuilt, whatever the case may be, and have it recertified by an engineer. If you sell a house that's built in, XYZ year or older, then you're going to rewire the whole house or put in a new electrical panel,
yeah,
or the roof is older than its life expectancy, even though it's working perfectly fine. You take the roof off and put a new one on.
yeah,
If you put together a criteria like that, new windows, new flooring, the grade of luxury vinyl planking you're using is above a certain threshold, stuff like that. I think
right,
that well, it's funny that I just mentioned roof. That house in Arlington, the second house I ever sold, it's an old farmhouse built in 1901, and my clients had bought it in 1970 and had never put a roof on it. It's got a super steep pitch. The insurance company called me. They're like, "Well, how old's the roof?" I'm like, "We don't really know. Hold on." And I called my clients, and they're like, "We've lived here since 1970. We've never put a roof on." It's like, oh, geez. So yeah, I think that would be pretty cool to be able to provide, and then build a brand around, Chip and Joanna Gaines. I mean, something,
yeah,
along that line. But
yeah. No, I love it. Um, what's a legacy goal for you? What's a goal that you want to hit when you're no longer here?
yeah, so that's something I thought about a lot lately. Is legacy. Like, what am I going to leave behind? And it keeps me up at night. To be honest with you, it's something I think about every day. And I would like to have a building somewhere, some way, somehow have a building that I can leave to my family, and that building and that piece of property provide for other people. And I don't know if it's providing continuing education, providing physical fitness education, or whatever the case may be. But I'd love to have a building, my own building, that I could leave to my family. So when my grandkids, great grandkids, so on and so forth, are older, they can say, "Man, look at that!" My grandpa, great grandpa, whoever
Yeah,
did that. You know what I mean? I think that'd be
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And last question for you.
Yep.
What's one piece of advice that maybe you received, maybe that you wish you had when you got into the business, or maybe something if an agent asks you, "Hey Ben, give me one thing, right, that I need to know about real estate."
Mhm.
What would that be?
Hmm. Man, I've got a whole laundry list of things that I could share with you, but I think believing in yourself is super important. And I don't think people do it enough. People don't believe in themselves, even when there's no doubters, or when everything seems to be going for them or going against them. I think people at the end of the day, um, that's super important to believe in yourself, because you're going to have ups and downs, right? Be confident in your decisions. You're always going to have, ups and downs. I remember when my son was a year old, and the folks that I was, showing houses to, in a nice part of town, the gal happened to be a school teacher. She taught first or second grade, maybe. But she got my son out of the car, because I put him in the car. I would drive the husband and wife around. We look at cars. She pulled my son out, and he wasn't potty trained yet, and he had a little accident with his diaper, got pulled to the side, and he had pee all over him, and she was holding my kid that had pee all over him, and I was like, man, that's it's not ideal situation. She was super cool about it, and she was great, and I thought to myself, there are really good people. There are really good people out there for sure. And it takes consistency. It takes hard work. Believe in yourself when you think that, things are never going to work out. You have to believe in yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to work hard, period.
Yeah. Ben, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks so much for sharing your journey and the wisdom that you have in the real estate space. Those that are watching, his phone number and Ben's Instagram handle are at the bottom of the screen. But Ben, for those that are listening in on the podcast version, what is the best way for someone to reach out to you? Maybe they want to learn a little bit more from a real estate agent standpoint, or maybe they want to learn about the investing side, or maybe they're just buyers and sellers, right? And they want to pick your brain on value upgrades of the construction or getting their home ready for the market. What's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Awesome. Great question. So typically a phone call, a text message. I'm old school in that I still talk on the phone a lot. I still answer my phone like a dummy most of the time, because it's it's a spam call. But you call me or text me, that's a great way to reach out to me. I try to meet with someone new at least 3 times a week, whether it's coffee or lunch or a nice tea, whatever. I try to meet at least 3 people, new people a week. So if somebody has a construction question, how to build value in your current home by gutting the kitchen, whatever, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text. Real estate related stuff, same thing. 614-440-4781.
Ben, thanks so much. I appreciate you. And, I love it when I get to connect with people like this. I didn't know your story. I didn't know your journey.
Yeah.
I know there's value that you were able to provide today to to my audience and to the audience, listening, that there's no one right way to go out and have success in this business and in this industry. So thanks so much for your time. And if I could do anything for you in the future, I'm here to help you any way I can.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks
All right,
again.
we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.